Welcome to the Gravel Lot, the place where bikes are for everyone.
The Gravel Lot podcast is presented by Be Free Ride Bikes Apparel, providing a fully customized cycling apparel experience to provide you and your team the attention to detail and personal touch that you deserve.
And also brought to you by Grimpour Brothers Coffee, offering handmade coffee roasted weekly in small batches to give you the finest quality coffee to start your day. Choose their subscription service and earn your free bag of coffee today.
And by Hand Up Gloves. Great gear, better times. Providing a wide range of apparel for bikes, snow sports, and golf in multiple designs and fits to let your personality shine.
Our goal with the Gravel Lot is to inspire cyclists of all stripes to ride bikes, share their story, and have fun. We love all bikes and anyone who wants to ride them. So no matter where you sit on the spectrum of bikes, we'll always have a place for you in the Gravel Lot.
And now, the hosts of TGL, John Woolry and Doug McClintock.
Hello once again, and welcome back to the Gravel Lot, the official podcast of all things cycling. I'm John, that's Doug, and we are so happy that you guys found us once again. It's a little bit more difficult, I guess, now that we're every other week, or it seems that way from my perspective that we might lose touch with you guys, but you're here.
It's just different.
You're here.
It's just different.
Yes.
Different cadence.
Well, regardless, whether you are a new Pebble and it's your first time joining us in the Gravel Lot, or you are an old, grizzled, and well-weathered Pebble, welcome back to the show. So for the new folks, what is TGL? So long story short, I think short story long, whatever the kids say.
Long story long.
Long story long, sure. We love bikes and we love telling stories. Actually, that was pretty short, so I'm going to go with that. Doug and I both fully believe that the only thing better than a bike ride is sharing one with your friends. So we want you guys to know that no matter what ride you are on, whether it's this week, next month, next year, you will always have a home here and a place to tell your story with us in the Gravel Lot. So if you guys like what you hear today and believe in what we are doing, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share the show with your bike friends, leave us your comments, do all the things that let the internet know that you are enjoying what we are doing, because it's going to start to, the bots and the AI that are the internet are going to start to serve up more stuff for you from the Gravel Lot.
Right. If we've all learned something in the past couple months, is that Facebook is going to serve you whatever is controversial, and we are not that. So you're going to have to like us and stuff. So we cut through the wheat and chaff of the internet. So like our stuff, share it around, make comments, engage with our stuff. We love that. Also, make sure to click up the links in the show notes so you can help support the fine people who have supported us. Check out our website, check out our Etsy store, get yourself some TGL swag, and go follow us on Patreon and become a patron today. We'd love to have you aboard. Also, we know that the people who are supporting us have amazing products. So check out the awesome new offerings from folks like Gripper Brothers, our friends at Hand Up. So many good things. BFRB putting out a bunch of new kit. There's all sorts of good stuff coming down the pike. So make sure to hit up all our friends and cop that swag. If you want to send questions or feedback, you can do that through so many different ways. We are at the Gravel Lot on all the social platforms. You can hit our website. We have a feedback form there, or you can call us at 513-400-5577 and leave us a voicemail. John, we did get a voicemail.
I know.
Apparently,
yeah. We're not.
We got a voicemail. We did get a voicemail in error this week. That was real good. It was like, yo, girl, it's your boyfriend. You need to call me.
Hey, baby, it's your sweetheart.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean,
And
if
I
you guys
appreciate
want to, if you guys want to intro your call that way,
That's
I'm
fine.
certainly not opposed.
But please, do something to signify that this isn't actually Ellen.
Delineate who it is first.
Yeah. Let us know.
It's probably
Let us know your name.
Right.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Anyway,
Sure.
John, how has the ride been the past couple weeks?
You know what? I'm not even going to talk about the last 2 weeks. I want to talk about this week, and then I want to talk about this weekend, because there is a lot of stuff here in Cincinnati to look forward to. And
it will be the past when this comes out for people who are not getting it now.
yes. So yes, for those in our future, your past, or if you're watching the live stream, it's going to be this weekend. Cincy CX weekend is this weekend, and it's going to be the first time since 2019 that we've been able to see all of these folks. The last time that we had it, we did, Doug and I hosted a big event at Cincinnati Mini, and a lot of people showed up. We hosted a Q&A session, and it was an amazing kickoff to an amazing weekend. And I mean, anytime that so many of our cycling family and friends that we've established from this show can come into town, it just warms my heart. And here we are recording on a Tuesday night, and Doug, both of us have been getting text and sending text with people that are already trying to plan things out for the weekend and the week.
In town. What do you want to do
I'm
tomorrow?
in town. Do you want to go get lunch, or do you want to go ride bikes? And it's like, dude, I have a job. I don't want to be mean, but bikes. I gotta. Yeah, it's not riding bikes, so you gotta cut me some slack. But I love that when people come into Cincinnati, and the people that we have either had on the show or met over the years of us both being involved in bikes, that's where people go, and it makes it all about so much more than the specific bike race and who's going to win the C1 or who's going to win the C2 or any of that stuff. I'm so excited because it's going to make me feel reconnected to the bike family. And from that perspective, I could not be more excited.
Yeah, dude, I think that is just one of the greatest parts about the fact that we live in Cincinnati is we have established all these awesome relationships with people that we just absolutely adore and love, and we get to see them after such a long hiatus. Yeah. Now, I will be taking their vaccination cards before they get a hug, but regardless,
well, I feel like we've established that our demographic that is listening to us, we lost some people last year over myriad of reasons over last summer and since. But you know what? I feel like at this point, our demographic that's watching the show, that's listening to the show, feel pretty good that we can all give you guys a hug. So
make out fests with Doug and John at the Cincy CX.
Fundraising for
I'll be.
What do we want to fundraise for?
Yeah, what are you going to fundraise? Kiss the kissing booth. We can have a kissing
but I think all of this is all that aside, yes, I'm so excited to see all of our bike family come into town, but also massive kudos to the people putting all of this work in to make this weekend possible for all of these folks to come into town. Jerry, Julie, Scott, everybody that's putting effort into this, the Steerwalt family, everybody that's putting in time, effort, whether it's this year or all the work that's been done over the last probably decade plus at Kingswoods with Deerfield Township, just to make things like this viable, and then to put all of the work in to make it a first class venue and turn a golf course in a great park into an amazing cyclocross venue and a destination for the weekend for domestic cyclocross racing. So thank you to from the bottom of our hearts and everybody that's going to race this weekend, to all of those people putting on the event.
Yeah, and I will say that if you haven't been up there in 2 years, they've changed a whole bunch of stuff. There's this big ass pavilion and actual real bathrooms and a whole bunch of other stuff that actually exists up there. So excellent. The venue has changed a bunch in that way. And also super stoked. Ellie's going to be up there. Beyond Exercise is doing a whole recovery tent. I asked if I could DJ it. She said no. So that was the thing I tried. Did not work. At any rate, it's going to be awesome. And you know what? I echo that. I mean, nothing really to update on my end, things are just clipping along, but that is what I'm excited about. And that's like, I'm like on 11 this week because of getting to see our homies and high fives and all that
Yeah.
sort of stuff. So we'll see what I don't even know that we're going to even worry about collecting any audio or doing anything. I think we're just going to collect some hugs and see people. We'll have lots of stories to tell you.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, right? Is let's all in these moments, let's enjoy the moment and not like it crossed my mind like, well, let's make some content, but also no, I don't want that to take away from seeing my friends and family.
But Pebbles, if you're there, come find us. We would love to see you. We would love to hear from you. We would love to hear who you want to have on the show. Come find us. Let's chat.
I feel like we're pretty easy to find.
Person. Yeah. Look for the tall guy and the guy with the mustache.
Yeah.
I mean, there'll probably be some other guys with mustaches, but you know what I look like. It's fairly easy.
Yeah.
So, I think it's time probably to make this happen. Are you in?
Let's go.
Fantastic. As you know, we all adore sharing stories. That is kind of our thing. And we're about sharing new perspectives and perspectives specifically within the cycling community. And today's guest has made it his mission to do exactly that thing. As we all are, he is a person of many, many talents. He's a CTO, a cyclist, a pilot, which is pretty dope. You can see some cool piloting photos. He's an advocate and a parent. Just to name a few things, obviously a musician as well, if you look behind him. But also, he happens to be part of his local cycling scene and has put a ton of energy into his local cycling group, which is CRCA, or you may basically know it as the group that runs New York City, for lack of a better explanation. More recently, he has dedicated his cycling energies and perspectives towards removing barriers and trying to bring more folks of all different stripes into our little cycling world by starting a team called B Cyclocross. I'm hoping it's B, not BE. We'll figure that out. But B Cyclocross, and for those reasons and so many more, we are so excited to have him join us today. Randy Locklair, welcome to the Gravel Lot.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
We are stoked to have you. Comes highly recommended from our good friend Tara. So Tara, you get at least
Gold star
credit.
Yeah.
for telling us, why have you not had Randy on the show yet?
If it goes well.
If not, it's Tara's fault.
Correct.
No,
yeah, that's a
all,
very tenuous line to walk right there.
No,
right,
we are
made.
so stoked to have you. We're so stoked to have you here. It is awesome when you get to meet people that you like correspond with in other ways, but you get to meet them in real life. Well, I mean, this is virtual real life, but
this is real life in 2021.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that this is, after the last year and a half, any sort of like visual interaction with people is incredibly exciting. So yeah, this is awesome. I'm so stoked to be here.
Well, you've listened to the show, so you know where we like to kind of baseline things. And, we all have a story about how we accessed bikes. How did you find bikes when you were growing up? Was this something that got to you early on?
Not at all. Learned how to ride a bike as a kid and pretty much never rode a bike again. I eventually, in my adult life for fitness, got into running. And I did the very common story of going, hardcore into running marathons, destroying my body, and realizing I needed some other way to be competitive. And my very best friend, Josh, who's had been trying to get me to race bikes in some form for a long time, finally won. It's like, all right, the marathon thing is not working for you anymore. Come to the dark side. And I got back on a bike. I think I was maybe 29, 30. And you don't forget how to ride a bike, but it was pretty close at first. It had been a minute. It replaced my running racing energy with bike racing. And that's how I dove in.
So for you, was it the combination? Talk me through the algebra of that transition, because I think we all I'm another one that came back to it as an adult, and mine was a little bit different than that. But was it equal factors, being injured and beating yourself up with trusting your friend's input, or like was it more that, or like walk us through kind of the math in your head?
Yeah, I mean, I have an interesting relationship with fitness in my life. A lot of my motivation for racing and exercise is because my dad passed away when I was young, and it's really important for me to stay fit. And I was losing running. I wasn't, I ran the New York City Marathon. For I did, my third time running it, my body was falling apart, and I knew it wasn't a good idea for me to keep training for stuff like that. But I knew I needed to stay fit somehow, and so that's what finally made me listen and say, all right, let me try this supposedly no impact sport and see what happens. And I fell in love.
Yeah, it's no impact.
No
I
impact,
appreciate when
except
people always
the
say
whole
that. Yeah.
doing cyclocross thing and impacting yourself on the
Yeah,
ground.
right. Yeah, this is where I've ended up, and clearly this plenty of impact. But no, it was those are the words I needed to hear at the time to get started, and I started out racing road races and crits, and yeah, there's no impact there either, right? Say that to everyone with a separated shoulder, but
Right, yeah, and the elbow marks to prove.
Well, it's one long impact that spans 100 feet of sledding across the pavement.
Yes. But yeah, it came out of a need to find a way to exercise. But I really, I fell in love with it, and you go right back to being a kid. I mean, we all still do it. Anytime you get a new bike, or you try and a discipline you've never tried before, or you get somebody else into cycling, like you become 6-year-old again. And I love that feeling, and I love getting opportunities to feel it over and over again. So getting people into the sport, all the things you mentioned that I've been doing, it's ways to kind of relive that feeling of a first time on a bike or first time trying to race.
All those feelings do trigger all those like endorphins and those moments that you almost are able to like seminally like are recorded someplace on your cortex, like that, and this like it triggers that. So did 6-year-old Randy, who was like getting into riding that bike back in the time, did you grow up in New York proper? Was that like where you grew up? What was your like process to like finding running, if running was such a big thing that kind of got replaced?
I didn't do a lot of athletics growing up. I was the nerd in front of a computer, which has been great for my career. But it was, it took until my adult life to really have the motivation to do any of that. I think running, I kind of just, I'm sure this is something we can talk about tonight, but running is incredibly accessible.
Yes.
And unlike bike racing, which is a lot of why I'm doing what I'm doing, but I got some running shoes, and I went and ran a mile, and it was terrible, but it was something I could go try and do. And I moved from a mile to 2 miles and signed up for a race. And the thing with running is you can show up for a running race having maybe run the distance only once before and still be okay and participate and get something out of it. And that energy of racing, even though it was like middle to back of a pack, doing a running race, was still just electrifying and got me hooked. And that's what got me into endurance sports. And I went from 5Ks to half marathons to marathons, and just loved it and loved that feeling. And my knees and ankles didn't love it quite as much, so
generally they don't. Okay, so for you, if sport wasn't a part of your life growing up, and like you said, you're focused on obviously sitting in front of the career, as you said, with being what, your chief technical officer at your company, like
I am, yeah,
kind of a big deal, no big deal.
Big deal.
But so like for the people that don't have that kind of language growing up, it's always curious to me when, like, what made you go buy running shoes and have the impetus to go run that first mile? Like, walk us through your thought process there, because I think whether it's running or cycling, there's most people's entrance into endurance sport, there's a lot of commonalities with that. So I'm curious as to what for you, for somebody having kind of no background, like what was the like, I'm gonna go get some shoes and I'm gonna run.
Sure. I mean, I mentioned it briefly, and it's a sad sounding thing, but it really did come from my dad passing away. I was 14 when he died. He died of a massive heart attack. He didn't take care of himself. He wasn't, he was not healthy. And it's something that, I think that one of the ways the grief affected me, more than anything else, was just worrying about it happening to me. I am about to turn 42. He was 42 when he died. And so I knew, that I couldn't, I knew I didn't want to let my fitness go and be unhealthy. And, that grief kind of transformed into motivation to find a way to do that.
Man, I can relate to that really, really hard, because I feel like a lot of my getting into endurance sport has been like out of fear that a lot of folks in my family are diabetic, overweight, spend the last years of their life really uncomfortable or, immobile because they've just not taken care of themselves or had things pile up to where they can't keep on top of it. And wherever the motivation comes from, whether it's from a pure place or a dark place, like, I don't know if it matters, but I can completely relate to where you're approaching that from, of like, I'm like, it's not coming to get me. Like, it's not coming to get me. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah. And it just, and that just amplified 1,000 times when I had a kid. Because that's it. I lost my dad when I was a kid, and so now I kind of project that onto, like, not only do I not want to die, but I don't want that to happen to the rest of my family. So it just the motivation has multiplied. Yeah.
So it just stacks all of those things. I think those pressures are, and everybody's got their own trigger for that, whatever it is. We all have those different pressures in that space. When did you decide, like, no, I'm going to try a marathon? Or was that gradual? Because, like, I feel like people tend to, like, be like, no, I'm just going to do a marathon. And then they're like, oh Lord.
So, out of my love for running, eventually actually got me into coaching. So I became a certified running coach because one common thread you'll see through all of this is I just love getting other people into the stuff that I'm into. And I've worked with many of those first time marathoners that are just like, yeah, I saw this event and I want to do it. And that's what happens, especially, here in New York City. Sure. Marathon Day is a giant party, and you go out and you watch people and you spend hours outside watching the front of the packers go by and doing this amazing thing where they're running 5-minute miles constantly, to the 3-4 hour marathoners that have been training hard and they're doing their best, to people, to like the 6 and 7 hour marathoners who also trained hard, and like everyone's just like working really hard to go and do this thing. And it's totally inclusive of whatever kind of speed you want to do it. And it's a big party. It's a big party running it. Like, it's weird to say that. You tell people, like, yeah, running the New York Marathon's a big party. They're like, running 26 miles is not a party. But it is.
This weekend we have our flying pig it's normally supposed to be in May. I thought it was this weekend.
It's this weekend when the podcast comes out. It's
the
last weekend in October, but it's the following week. Yeah,
the time travel weekend.
Time travel weekend. Here.
Flat circle, all that stuff. But like, the road that goes behind our house, and my wife is up at 7 a.m. and making sure that she's right next to the road, and it goes through our neighborhood, and there's people that decorate their whole house, and you can just like feel the energy, as whether it's, like you said, the fast people that are doing stuff that I couldn't do 1 mile of, let alone like 26.2 of in a row, or the folks that are just walking it, trying to walk it, and just trying to do it, and the stoke level stays the exact same, and I'm sure that it's even such an escalated pace in New York City, going through the boroughs and having the different vibes for each parts of the city, and just having a higher concentration of people, that I can see where it would be, if you wanted a marathon that could keep you engaged externally and not focused on what's going on like between your ears.
Yes.
I feel like that would be a really good one.
Absolutely. It's kind of funny. I don't know if they still use the same signs, but when you're going over the Queensboro Bridge, you're around mile 16, and everyone tells you like, yeah, it's great. Like, you go over the Queensboro Bridge, you're going to hear this like wall of sounds and all the people on First Avenue in Manhattan. And it's true, but you still got 10 miles to go. And so there's
like,
a serious,
not all of it. Yes.
I did a little bit more than half.
So there's like a series of signs as you're coming off the bridge, and it's just like you're almost there, and the next sign's if almost there, and I think the last sign's like means you've got 10 to go. Welcome to Manhattan. It's but anyway, I definitely I got into it gradually. I definitely eased into it. I there's a really common race course in Central Park. It's a 4-mile run. Most of New York Road Runners races, use that course. And I loved that. And I got into shape doing that course. I went from racing, 10-minute miles to like, I think maybe doing sub sevens at my best, which is like not putting me in the front of the race, but it was a huge
That's
change
still
from my
fast.
first race. Yeah, it was. I mean, and coming from where I came from at zero, it was awesome. But I really got into that. Did a few halves, and then eventually it was like, all right, like I've gotten this far. And that combined with watching the race and seeing people do it got me to give it a shot. But I can totally see like you can go outside and be part of this party and see the bands and see the runners and just get so excited that you could be a total non-runner and say, I'm going to do this next year.
Yeah, I mean there are people, they do it here in Cincinnati, and this is a hard marathon with tons of elevation.
Yeah.
So you said something interesting, that it led you to coaching because you like to get people into the things you're doing and the things that motivate you. So I want to dive down that a little bit.
All right.
Like what was the trigger that said, ooh, if I became a coach, I can solve this problem for other people? What made you think that? Like,
Well,
that's not a normal react. I'd be like, hey, John, I like eating ice cream. Come eat ice cream with me.
Let me tell you how great this ice cream is.
Right. Was that not working? Like, why was coaching the solution to solve that problem?
Well, I think I thought a lot about trying to find the sport as an adult. And this was like, this was early internet, like, this was like the late 90s. So you could go online and like, search
you're
for
on
stuff
Gopher
web,
and you search New York Marathon on Gopher, and you're like, I don't know, this is a weird bulletin board.
AOL,
Right.
Yeah, AOL chat rooms.
All right, it was a little later than that, but but I was there for that too. But no, there wasn't a lot of information, and there especially wasn't a lot of information if you weren't trying to be like a super elite marathoner, right? If you wanted to just go and get into the sport for fun, like it was definitely like inclusive enough to allow for that, but there was no information. There was no like place to go and say, I want to try running a mile. It was like, it was like this is serious. Like you go join New York Athletic Club and like train to like be in the top 1,000, people in these races, or like you
Prefontaine. This isn't
right. Yeah.
But there were just no resources, that were easily accessible when I got into it. And so, I wanted to help make that happen. So coaching and there was a running club here where I live in Northern Brooklyn that was starting up in the later 2000s called North Brooklyn Runners. And I was one of the first members of that club as well. And, we started a beginner's run, and, we just did a lot of things for people who were, in their 30s, in their 40s, or any age, whatever, who decided I want to try the sport and I have no idea what to do and where to go help.
So let's bring this to modern day, 2021.
Yes.
We got a lot of new people on bikes. Selfishly, mine is stuck in customs, and it's been there since July. I'm not salty about that at all, because Doug's been riding his new bike, and we bought him in the same day.
Oof.
But
I'm sure that never comes up in conversation.
Not ever.
Not ever. Not like every day or anything.
Social media. This is why I have not shared many photos of the bike, because I don't want to make John sad.
Because I'm gonna drive over to his house and throw a shoe at his window. So we have all these new people, and these are conversations that I know you've heard on this show, and I know that we've had with other folks. But I kind of want to look at it in a different way. So you lived through this experience of taking the New York running world and bringing it down to an accessible level, and you lived through a lot of that. You were a part of it. There was probably thousands of people that were leaning into that space and trying to figure out how to do what you were doing, but you were there, you were able to watch it. So from that, what do you think, if we bring this to modern day bikes, what learnings from that, what things worked, what things didn't work? Because there's so many times that we cite running as a participatory sport on this show of how do we replicate why does joining up for a crit race or a cross race feel so different than signing up for a 5K? How do we lower the bar and get it to a point where there's a running club right down, or a running shop right down the road from Doug and I, and they get 40, 50 people for a Tuesday night running club. And there's, the 10-minute mile all the way down to the 7-minute mile. And like, how do we get that for the local shop rides? Because most of our local shop rides are 3 or 4 of the same like middle-aged white dudes every single week.
Well, the really cool thing that has happened in New York is I've seen so many group rides start up during the pandemic that are mostly led and comprised of people of color who got into bikes over the last year, and there's just inherently no gatekeeping, and there's no expectations, and you show up to a shop ride and you see like those 4 middle-aged white folks all kitted up with their really nice bike, talking about their really nice bike and
their calves,
and giving each other like a hard time about when the last time they shaved, and
Right.
all that stuff.
It's 2 weeks ago. I apologize.
Yeah, it's that's, as a newcomer, and especially for people of color and for women, and trans folk, it's like you're already feeling like you don't belong showing up to this stuff. And then when everyone's just when everyone's clicky and talking about the stuff, and not just like, hey, we're just going to go out for a ride and have fun. It's just hard to feel like you belong there from day one. And so watching these groups start up that are just like, we don't care what bike you show up with, we don't care what you're wearing, we don't care who you are, just come and do this ride, and we're not going to drop you, and we're just gonna have a good time, and we're gonna go eat afterwards, and the focus is on like the togetherness of the ride, and that has been awesome to watch. And that actually is one of the things that made recruiting for the B team a little bit easier, because there was all of a sudden this like mass of cyclists of color that were getting together and doing the stuff that I could go to and say like, hey, you all got into the sport and you're all in one place, so listen up for a minute.
Right.
Let me have your attention.
It's like a dealer walking into a corner like, oh, you rounded them all up for me already, that I can upsell them now.
I can sell right into the
right.
space.
So okay,
but there's so much. I was just to add, like there's everyone who and with CRCA, like we put on a bunch of road races, right? And everyone's always like, how do we get the running thing in bike racing? And in racing, it's a whole other story, right? Because like you can't, especially road racing, I mean, like you can't show up as a beginner to a 5K and potentially take out the entire field and send a
that would be an
hospital.
amazing visual.
To be clear, if you don't know where to park, you can.
Not saying that look, we don't want to challenge people to do this.
No,
right?
we don't want to.
All right, Doug.
It's not Talladega.
You are correct. That is correct. And most people in New York are taking the subway anyways. Let's be clear.
Yes. But that the fact that you can just show up, do a 5K, and not have to worry about skills, and what you can just go race your race. You could not get near anybody else and participate and just do your thing. It's a whole other story than showing up to your first crit or your first circuit race and worrying about just worrying about whether or not you're supposed to be there. You have that imposter syndrome, which I had plenty of getting into it, myself. But also, worry that you're going to hurt somebody, that someone else is going to hurt you. Sure. Not to mention, getting dropped and basically you're just hanging out by yourself the rest of the day because you could never catch up again.
That's more than likely going to happen regardless.
Right. Which is and that's what we tell everybody, when they're going to go and do it for the first time. But it's never going to be the same as just go run at your pace, and there'll probably be people around you, and you'll finish and you don't have to worry about it. And we have a little bit more of that in cross, but
right. So okay, so let me ask one more question, then we'll put a pin in this part of it because I know Doug has some transition stuff he wants to ask. But so for these group rides that are, we don't care what you wear, we don't care what you ride, we're gonna go eat afterwards. from a positioning perspective, like we talked about, you know, how you were searching for finding groups and things like that in the late 90s. And there's myriad ways to do all of those things now, whether you want to do it through social media or you want to do it via website or you know, local bulletin boards or whatever the thing is that works for you. How are you, or how are these events and these rides being positioned? Because I think the communication, the words that are being used, the description of what the actual ride is going to be, and kind of setting the expectations for folks, I think is where a lot of things are being missed.
You know, it's interesting because so many of these groups were started by people who also just got into bikes in the last year. So I just don't think that they're thinking about it that much. You know, I think
which is good. Which is a good thing.
No, it's great, and you know, they're just saying, come out and ride and have fun because I want to do this with people and have fun with them, and that's like the entire focus. No one's even getting to the point of like, this is the speed we're going, or like, you know, like anything like that. It's just like like. It's like it's, you know, watching my daughter play. It's like, you know, it's watching a bunch of kids like getting together in the playground.
Right.
Like,
come over
fun.
here.
Come
you want to use the slide?
bikes.
Okay, we're gonna build this thing. I'm gonna go down the slide first, and then Timmy, you're gonna go down the slide second.
Yeah.
Jane, you're gonna go down the slide third, and we're gonna see who goes down the slide the fastest.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. To me, is it any more complicated than let's ride bikes? Like, is it?
No, it's not. And it's, you know, I think it's hard for people to turn off the, you know, I mean, we see it all the time. Like you go out for a ride with people and you've got the one person who's got to give everybody advice and like, you know, comes and puts the hand on your shoulder and like tells you what you should be doing. Like we all know that person on the group ride, right?
Yes.
But like I guess if you don't know to do stuff like that, then it's never going to happen. So
it's interesting. So I think the bike community, when we look at that space, we're trying to solve problems that we've all experienced instead of approaching this from a place of just don't like. I know
we're trying to solve it from a foundation of knowledge rather than a foundation of purity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
From a place of like, no, just
excellent words.
Oh, John, thank you for distilling that. I was trying to, but I was tripping over it in my brain. Yeah. So, but it is interesting to think about that, about perspective, because if you give people the latitude to go do the thing and understand, hey, we could all do this together, you're giving them a space to be like, let's just go do this together. We're a swarm of people doing a thing, and it'll be fun, and it'll just be an enjoyable process. And I like that from that perspective. Absolutely. So you discover bikes and you start getting into them from a fitness perspective, and you decide, hey, cool, I'm going to double down on this. This seems like a fun thing. What does the process of you getting from, hey, I'm learning how to race bikes with my friend.
I'm broken.
Yeah.
I can't run.
I have broken all my clavicles. My knees feel horrible now as well, and it's just because my bike fits crappy, right? Like, how do you move from like this space of entering the bike world and into another space? And when you entered the bike world, how was that welcome for you? You had someone to help you navigate, but what was that welcome like at that time into the bike world?
Sure. Well, I mean, this is, you know, enter CRCA. You know, I had my buddy to get me into the sport. You know, we didn't live super close to each other at that point. So I looked locally to see, you know, what are my options. And CRCA, you know, this had to have been, I guess, 2010, 2011, something like that, was making an effort to try and get more, you know, to grow the membership. Because as I know now, being the membership director for most of the last decade, we can't exist without having a very large membership. So we need y'all to come join. New York City folks, come join us.
Hashtag what? What's the CRCA?
United Colors of CRCA, at CRCA Racing on all social media. Anyway, CRCA was starting to make a big effort at recruiting, and one of the problems that CRCA has had is, you know, CRCA is USA Cycling's largest road club, and we have a bunch of sub teams, and sub teams are, you know, can be one person, can be you know, more than that, obviously, and you know, have their own kits, and they look like a team that's separate, you know, in any way, just like any other bike racing team. You've got your CRCA insignia on your shoulder, but you know, otherwise it's kind of your identity. And the sub teams, as you can imagine, can get very cliquey and competitive. And there's a lot of, a lot of gatekeeping but just by the fact that you show up and you see a bunch of teams and you're an individual and you don't know, like, you don't know any of them. You don't know if it's okay for you to be out there by yourself. So CRCI was trying to make an effort to kind of write articles and just get out there and say, it's cool to be a CRCI member and not be on one of the sub teams. Or you can go and start your own sub team. Like, they were just finding ways to try and get that messaging out there. And so they had just written an article where they had interviewed a few people in the club about, doing exactly that. And there was a guy named Todd Potter, who had just started a sub team. Basically, he's like, I want to design a jersey for myself, and I'm new to this, and if anyone else wants to come and join, you're welcome. And it was the most welcoming thing I had read about anything, bike racing in New York City. So I sent him an email, and I was like, I'm in. And so it was great because it meant showing up to my first race and at least knowing a few people. And like, just feeling like I wasn't totally on my own lining up in that, that first early morning Cat 5 race. So that, that helped a lot. And then just CRC itself, we have a bunch of new member training sessions where if you are a Cat 4 or Cat 5 and you join CRCA, you have to do this clinic. And trust me, I get 50 people every year, not 50, maybe 5 people every year who are, it feels like 50, who are like, I have done 17 Grand Fondos and raced one race. Do I really have to do this? But it's safety. We do it because we want everyone in the race to be safe. So we have a bunch of these.
Come on, Skid Mark. We don't need you to try to be like, no, I'm a professional. Come on, Skid Mark. Not acceptable.
Anyone who does that, we double down and make sure. Maybe we make them do 2 of them. But no, we have this infrastructure for new racers to come and join and learn before they line up for the first time, which is fantastic. When I was starting out, it gave me a way to go and do this, this coaching session and, learn how to ride, how to race in a group. I'd done plenty of group riding at that point, but, they teach you how to race in a group before you go race for the first time.
Well, and that, that is for the guy. I think it's important to note, if you don't know who the guy in your group is, that is the one that is annoying about giving advice.
It's you.
It's probably, yeah. Like, what is it you point? If you're pointing at somebody, there's 3 fingers pointing back at you.
Yeah, right.
Anyway,
exactly.
But I think that is like, once you've said, okay, this is something I want to try, I feel like then it's okay. It's like you've given the permission to say, okay, I am open to hearing this information and I am open to having this dialogue, and you can now put your arm on my shoulder and tell me, like, this is what half wheeling means.
Still no touching.
Still don't.
No touchy.
Whatever.
No touchies.
But I feel like at that point,
it's unacceptable.
I think at that point it is okay to start that conversation, and regardless of like, okay, well, you've done 17 fondos, but I'm sure that there's something in that day one that you're gonna learn that you're like, oh man, I've been doing that for 17 fondos.
Yep, absolutely. No, it was so helpful to have that infrastructure to not feel like I was totally lost getting into it. And I raced my first crit and got destroyed. Sent yo-yoing off the back for the first few laps, and then just all alone for the rest of it, and it was miserable. But I was ready to race again the second it was over. Just put me back in. Let me try again. I'll do better. I've eventually found cross and truly fell in love there.
Why? Cool. I get crits are a nightmare. And I'm with you on this. Like, it's just a frightening place full of asphalt and potential danger. That's how I feel. But why like cross, and how did you find cross?
So I'll tell you how I found cross first. There's a team that started after maybe 2013 or so, called Cruise. Still around now, still an awesome New York City force in cyclocross. But when they first started out, their whole MO was, let's teach people in New York about the sport. They got Rod and Ronnie, who started the team, got a bunch of bikes from Cannondale. They got I think 6 Cat X's and 6 Super 6s, and they said, we're gonna, they got a trailer and they brought them to all like the New England cross races, and they said, come join us, or even don't join us, but we got the bikes, so come borrow one at a race and give this a shot.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What a brilliant idea.
No, it was amazing. So
you can borrow this for one race.
Yeah,
we'll try to fix it after you've slapped it into a corner and like slid out into all your friends, but y'all can come.
Yep.
We're not going to sobriety test you before you take the bikes out, but enjoy yourselves.
They were, pivotal in all of New York City getting into cyclocross. There was just a post going around Instagram about that. I can't remember who wrote it, but yeah, so I joined the team. A bunch of people did. They were like, "All right, we'll try this out. You got bikes for us? We'll give it a shot." I went. My first race was the former Providence race, and went up to Rhode Island for that, and showed up at this big UCI event for my first cross race. Like, what am I doing? I think Meyerson had a clinic that Friday, so that was actually really cool. It was a really great way to go and see a course first before I tried it. It was the closest thing to the running community that I had found, and that's what drew me in. Being able to go and hang out and meet people and spend like a whole day or a whole weekend at a race. It was such a different experience, especially CRCA. Look, it's a privilege that we get to race in Central Park, but we got to do it at the Lick of Dawn. So like, yeah, you go and race a road race in New York City, and you're getting up at 4 if not earlier, and you're showing up in the dark, and no one's in a good mood, and like it's not a great place to make friends.
Yeah,
but
you gotta be out there. You got to be out of there by 10, so Kourtney Kardashian can take photos like of the pond, right? You got to make sure you're clear from the area.
I wish we had till 10.
Exactly, right.
But no, I mean, it was such a different experience, and just getting to hang out and just drink beers and watch people in the elite races later in the day. It had that community feel that I just never got from road, and that alone just suckered me in. I mean, I liked the racing too, and I love being outside in the fall. Like, it's my season. Like, I love being outside when the weather's changing. So just to have this excuse to be in beautiful parks, enjoying the fall weather, enjoying the atmosphere, making friends, destroying myself for an hour in the morning, and then getting to spend the rest of the day just chilling. It was the right format for me, and I fell in love fast.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't think you're going to have to sell either of us on cross. But I do feel like for everything that you're listing, I feel like for the person that is willing to go spend an hour in a local park, a cyclocross event's a pretty easy sell. You don't even need to be invested in bikes or understand what the event is, but just the curiosity and being outside and watching people do stuff that we probably all did as kids, and just riding around the local park, and then you figured out a way to put rules around it, and like the curiosity of, like, if you're walking into this of not knowing anything about bike racing and knowing that bike racing is somehow Lance Armstrong or whatever, and then you see that, and it's like, wait, what? Why is that guy dressed as a Yeti? And why is there like 60 beers next to the course? Like, what is happening?
What is going on? Yep.
Like, but that alone, there's like so many things that layer in curiosities that make it a very, very distinct and welcoming and just different event of kind of the bike world, that I don't feel like it fits into kind of the specter of bike racing.
It's absolutely. And I mean, I realized pretty quickly that it was the way to get people into bike racing who were totally not into it before. It wasn't, I mean, maybe like I haven't spent a lot of time in the track world, but there is a little bit of that with track in New York City, because we do have Casino, and, people do go and spend like the afternoon or the day out there for stuff like that. So it does have a little bit more of that, but I mean, compared to what I had been doing with road, I mean, I love it. I'm still on the CRCA board, and I'm not going anywhere. It's so much fun to put on these races, but to get people into the sport who have never done it, like cross was the way I decided was, that was the right way.
I always talk about it like that pool that they have now for all the kids, right? Where you can just kind of like wade into it. It's a zero entry, right?
Yep.
It's for kids, folks who may have a disability and need to not like just get yeeted into the deep end, right? Which is just an unfortunate thing for everyone. Like sometimes you just need to be like, oh, let me just slide into this. Oh, there's beer. Oh, there's talking crap at your friends. Oh, this seems like an easy place for me to get in. And then some people are like, no, I want to become, the hard person who's like elbowing people at the crit or whatever.
Right.
That's fine. You can become Myerson. You can become that. Hi, Ray. Hi, Adam. Adam, one of my dearest people. But like, if you want to go that route, that's always available. There's always different places, but you can still just go slap on the back of a Cat 5 race or show up to the 40+4s and be like, I don't know, I brought my mountain bike. Let's see what happens. And that's great.
Yeah. And the rest of my bike racing career is going to be coming in the bottom 10 of a Cat 4, or Cat 4 Masters race. That's fine. I'm totally fine with it. I still have a good time, and that's something. Yeah, but that's something about cross. You can do that in cross. You can go. It's similarly to the 5K. Like you can show up to a cross race and be a little bit out of shape, or a lot out of shape in my case, and go and have fun and make a fool out of yourself and feel like you did something awesome and you got something out of it. You accomplished
something awesome.
Yeah, and you know what? To me, it's there's in shape, but then I've redefined it during the pandemic is shapes. Just calling it shapes. Yeah, I am shapes.
Yes.
I'm not in shape. I am not out of shape. I am shapes.
All right. I think you got a gravel lot merch idea right now. make that shirt. I will buy it.
A triangle on top of a circle on top of a square or something. We can figure this out for sure.
I am shapes. So, okay. So I'm assuming, and I feel like we already kind of know where this story is going, that the cycling engagement is going to follow the exact same path of you like going into, I don't want to necessarily call it advocacy, but taking that and being like, I love this thing. I want to get more people into this thing. So I guess first off, walk us through how you became part of CRCA from a leadership perspective, but also kind of contrast that with how that process was either the same or different than your experience being a coach with running.
Sure. I got into CRCA. I think with running, it was a little bit more purely I want to get people into the sport. With cycling, it was I want to get people who look like me into the sport.
Yeah.
Or just
for sure.
I mean, just generally looking at it and seeing it being such a white male sport. I wanted to do something about that. And CRCA, unfortunately, has a racist past. There was a time that Black folks weren't allowed in the club. It was, it's unwritten history. No one really knows when it changed. But it's, if you talk to, elder, Black folks in the cycling community, even to this day, they won't join because they still remember,
that's completely legitimate from a perspective, but it's just like, it's just wild for my brain to process that we had a cycling org that had that operation. And Cincinnati's got one of the oldest cycling clubs in the entire nation. I want now I'm going to
let's do some digging.
When you're a person of color, you just kind of assume that all the histories are racist, and if you get proven wrong, it's great.
You're probably proven right more than you're proven wrong.
Yeah, if you go into it thinking that way, at least you're disappointed less. I
guess. Yeah, exactly. So, but sure, but I think it's to that point. I think it's important to at least acknowledge that history and not gloss over it and not whitewash it. But I think it's just as important to acknowledge that as it is the anxieties or the perception barriers of walking into an environment where you're the only one that looks like that. I think it's just by acknowledging that and telling people that you acknowledge that, I feel like that is like, whether it's Doug and I doing it or you doing it, the more folks that we can acknowledge being like, okay, this is something we actually just need to address. And we need to just put it out there. Yes, that stuff happened in the past. And if you don't want to join our club because of that, then that is fine. But this is where we stand now, and this is where we're going to be doing in the future. and just acknowledging that and putting it out there. I think it's one of those baseline things, just like it was that, like we're talking about, we're going to go ride bikes.
Yep.
Nothing more, but like just putting that into the world, that like saying that as a mission statement, not that we're going to, whatever flowery statement, we're going to be the fosters of inclusion and blah, 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 and all of these like fancy PR terms and things like that. It's like just
Show
saying
me.
it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
We're from Missouri. Show me.
And so I mean, I joined because I wanted someone who looks like me to be in a position of welcoming people into the club. And it was, it was awesome. We, the New York road racing community was already pretty integrated. Like there were plenty of men in race. There are plenty of brown and black men racing. Unfortunately, not a lot of women at all when I first got into it, but we've been working on that. It just being in a position of power in the organization, and having young, like I remember a few people that I got to know early on that would come to some of our open races, and they'd be like, oh, you're one of the people in charge, just like in total disbelief that there was someone that looked like them that was running things. And like those were the moments that made me so proud to be doing it. If it was one person who was more willing to come back because they saw someone that looked like them, in a leadership role, then that's what I was hoping to do. And it was awesome. It was awesome to see that happen. And so, the CRCA board has been particularly amazing over the last couple of years. I feel like we've really gotten to a point where inclusion is just more important to everybody than anything else, and we're not really willing to compromise on that. And it's been awesome. Even the things that I felt like I had to fight for when I first joined the board, now I throw an idea out there, everyone's like, yeah, let's do it, let's get after it, let's try and at least show that, let's do something, and not just say something. And it's been, it still surprises me when I'm like, yeah, we need to fight this, and everyone else is like, yeah, we do, we'll follow your lead, let's go. And it's been awesome.
Let me ask you specifically about that, like seeing and feeling this shift. I think a lot of us are seeing and feeling this shift. Like, does it give you hope that we're going to get in the right direction?
It gives me hope. You like your existence as a black man or woman is one of just constant disappointment around stuff like this, and it's hard to break out of that, but you kind of can in like little microcosms of your world, and so in like my New York bike racing community, like I have seen a big paradigm shift, and it does give me hope, and it does make me feel good. Like I said, you still just constantly assume the worst out of people and out of things, and it's there's still plenty of disappointment, but it is, it's still like I still just watching like Aisha McGowan do what she's doing now, watching the changes locally, watching people who don't have to fight the fight step up and fight with you, that gives you hope.
Well, yeah, and I think it's important that no matter what, that you don't necessarily have to go out and be Aisha, that you don't necessarily have to go out and win an Olympic medal or get on TV or get a sponsor or anything like that. That kind of, to what you're saying, is affecting that one person, that one person that sees you and sees somebody else modeling what they aspired to be, but were scared to come because they thought that they weren't going to see anybody else that looked like them. Understanding the power of just showing up in those environments, and yes, it's easy to sit here and say from Cincinnati, Ohio, in the Midwest, that New York is a different culture from where we are in the Midwest, is different than Iowa, is different than North Dakota or anything like that. But to watch it happen and to watch it work, and to see somebody that's modeling the right behavior, it may inspire some kid in Iowa to do what you're doing and take the bull by the horns and just be like, you know what? I fucking love racing bikes, and I don't really care about like what somebody is going to think, do, say, whatever. That they may eventually like end up in a position of inspiring somebody else just because they were being stubborn. So I don't think you necessarily need to set out to be a person like that. that is, we always call it kind of the poster on the wall, is you need to see yourself. You need to see someone that looks like you on the wall to aspire to be them. So whether it's, Doug and I have a lot of conversations about this kind of during the week of having a lot of, it's pretty clear that both of us are pretty progressive, and having a lot of those conversations around like, okay, well, that might not happen until you and I are in the ground, but somebody's got to take the first steps. And like somebody has to be part of leading that sharp edge. And why not? Like, why can't it be Randy? Like, why not?
And that's, I mean, all the little things that I've done in the, in like my sponsorship world, like, getting Aisha started. I was her first sponsor when she came in and raced Red Hook Crit. Look at her now. But
that's all you, right?
Just doing women's world tour stuff.
Yeah, like another subtle flex there by you.
No, all I did was give her, that first opportunity. She's amazing.
She's kicked the door.
And shout outs, been on the show season 1, John?
Season 1. Yeah. Seems like a lifetime ago.
It had a better hand to help treat that situation. But
you need the poster on the wall to like just to inspire. Like that's absolutely something. Like we need Serena Williams, we need Naomi, like we need that to have kids have something to look up to and get inspired, and grown-ups to look up to get inspired. But my whole motivation, like I knew that I was never going to be able to make some launch like a world tour team of all black folks or something like that. Like I don't have the resources to do that, but I can do lots of little things. So I helped start the women's development series with CRCA, for instance. My company sponsored that back at the beginning, and it eventually brought me to starting B. We just needed to show up and to show up in numbers and to be unapologetically people of color, and exist. The team is called B Cyclocross because we're all about existing at these races. If we get results, that's awesome. But everyone who I picked for the team just would ask me like, why did you pick me? And I'm like, it's not this team is not about winning. Like if we win some races, great. If we end up with some podium shots, awesome. But you all love bikes, and I see that about you all, and I want to have you here at these races and be part of the community, so that when that little kid rolls by, especially when we have our rainy park cyclocross next month, and some kids in the neighborhood are rolling by and they look over, their thought isn't like, oh, look at those white folks doing that thing again. They're like, wait, I see some people that look like me, like more than one. They're all hanging out together and posting reels on Instagram and stuff. Let me go see what this is all about.
Right.
Yeah.
And if we draw on one of those kids, I'm happy with the air. I'm happy with what we did.
I love that this is how you, like, there's this just amazing joy about the way you approach the work you do in this space, because it means something to you. Like, it's brought you some sense of who Randy is. I can see that, and you just want to keep sharing that and keep giving that to other people, like with running, with cycling. And I love that you've decided to like when you were like, I'm doing this thing, I'm building this group, we're going to get all these people out here, and started to figure out this process for B Cyclocross. It was like, yes, this is the thing that needs to happen in every city, every single spot that cyclocross is even remotely hot. Now, I can't necessarily do it, but I can support people in this community doing it, because this is where we need to broaden and think about how we support people getting into this sport. It's a sport that gets, I mean, all three of us could go out and have a hell of a good time, and none of us are winning a UCI point ever. Well, we are going to have a hell of a battle, and it's going to be funny, and we're going to have a good time. We're going to enjoy ourselves. You don't have to be a champion to approach this sport and still enjoy it and develop a lifelong appreciation of cycling in other ways. So when you started looking at how I'm going to like build BE, where were some of your like where were some of your like lamp posts of like, okay, that's the thing I want to do. That's the thing I want to do. Here's how I'm going to structure this thing. Because I think that there are people who are listening to this and people who find this stuff who can go and do this in their community, whether it's, W2F, WTF groups or folks of color who want to build this, who are in their own communities. And like, I don't know, I feel like that's too much for me to create in my own community. And granted, you've built an amazing thing. You've got Squid, you've got SRAM, you've got all these amazing sponsors because Randy a pimp and he figured it out. But how do you approach that? And in a like, this is just kind of my spots that my marks I wanted to hit.
Yeah. How do we franchise this?
Yeah. I mean, look, it's all like the problem with cyclocross, especially in New York City, is there are just so many barriers to access. I talked about Chris and them like showing up with the bikes. Like,
Yes.
we have small apartments, and while you talk to most people that in CRC, they'll tell you all about how they somehow fit 5 bikes in their apartment.
It's
it's
ridiculous.
It's it's
But
not
John,
easy.
John, your basement is the size
But
of
it's-
an apartment.
I know. That's what I'm
Your
saying. Like,
basement
I
is
am
the
in.
size of an entire.
Yes, I am in my
apartment.
my Midwest New York apartment right now.
Right there,
Yeah,
there you go.
In like,
But
the Lower
imagine
East.
fitting the whole rest of your family in there with you.
Right, yeah.
So we've got to get to races, which is not easy. We've got to get find a place for bikes. We have to find a place to learn skills. I mean, there isn't like we've got Cunningham Park, which has got some very technical mountain bike trails that you can kind of like ride around the easy stuff on a cross bike if you're starting out, but like not really. So there's so many barriers to entry, and my whole plan came down to one thing, and it was just eliminate as much of that as possible, so we can get people to actually go and do the fun thing, and show them that there's a place for them there. And I think I had the privilege of being able to self-fund a lot of it this year. I went out to I tried to start the team for a few years pre-pandemic, and had some conversations with some sponsors that I thought maybe might help us out in the bike front, and it didn't work out a couple times, and it was very frustrating, because I knew how important it was and necessary it was, and I just like couldn't quite close it. But last summer, it was the middle of just all the unrest around George Floyd, and just like feeling really upset about being a Black man in the United States, and I just got to a point where I was like, you know what, I don't care who I've got with me, and look, I had the privilege to be able to fund things this year to do that, but I said, I'm putting this money aside, and we're starting this team, and if I get people to help me, awesome. If I've got to go buy 5 bikes retail and we show up and do it, then we'll do it. But we're doing it, and I just I put the word out there, and luckily a lot of friends and people in my network chipped in some cash, so it wasn't just my budget to cover the team. It was still mostly me, so I could figure out what we're gonna do next year. But I just was like, you know what, this has to happen, and hopefully we'll get some help, and it was amazing once word got out, the support that we didn't end up getting, like you said, getting Squid to do what they've done with the frames, SRAM, who somehow got us group sets in the middle of the supply chain nightmare that is the last couple of years.
John's got a bike on a container ship or in customs, and you guys got group sets. Good job.
Yeah. I wasn't gonna say it like that.
No, I just try to keep reminding John, just kind of grind it in there a little bit.
No, Randy, my shoe's in the mail already. I'll mail it to your place in New York.
But no, I mean,
you gotta throw it through your own window, though.
I'll put a spring in it, and like it'll shoot out when you open it.
There we go. All right. But no, we got some help, and these folks made it a little easier to make all this happen. But my motivation was still, what barriers can I knock down? What costs to entry can we lessen? And I was able to, for this year, lessen most, if not all of them, for this team to get started. But it doesn't, you don't have to do that to start something like this. If you can do something where like you find some old bikes and you fix them up, and you put on some clinics and you just get people started somehow. Like you don't have to go and cover everything. Just go and do a little bit, because those little bits add up, and you might be able to do one. You might be able to find the bikes for people, and you might know someone who's willing to put on skills sessions, and you might know someone who's like, I got an old Sprinter van. I'll get you to it. Like, yeah, I don't know. Like you but there's power in the community coming together. Like, it doesn't have to be one person. But just, just got to cut down those barriers and just educate people about the sport. The kind of last straw for me to make this happen was, we were having a CRCA event, and I had the CRCA Major Taylor guys helping out, and it ended up being a quiet night, and we all kind of got to sit around and talk. And it was 8 Black men and me sitting around a table talking about bike racing, and I just got tickled, because I was like, I've never sat around with 8 Black folks and talked about bike racing before. This is awesome.
Well, but again, that's another one of those moments you're like, I need to acknowledge this specific moment, and like, it's that whole like, take the picture of the moment, because it's like those are the times that you have to like acknowledge that this is happening. Like,
yes, absolutely.
And going back to what you're saying about, you don't necessarily need to buy the things or fund the entire, go full Stu Thorne on setting up a team. but like, when it's that whole mantra of, I'm trying to think of the line from The West Wing, but there's the president's talking about, and he's like, I don't want to be the president where you walk up to somebody and say, where are my people going? I need to lead them. You want to be the person that is the spark plug that other people rally behind, because they're like, whoa, that boat's going somewhere, and I want to be a part of it. I want to see where that is going to take us, and what cool thing is that going to open up for our area. And I think there's a lot of people that'll throw things out there like, oh, I want to do this and I want to do this, and I'm not going to do anything until I get Squid on board, or till I get components from SRAM or anything like that. But it's like, that's not how things occur. Is you need the spark before more fuel comes, before more air comes in. Like, to actually get the thing moving, you have to put the electricity behind it, and you got to put, you have to put something out into the world and show them an actual deliverable for people to say, no, this is a thing. Like, it's a real, like, it's a thing, and it's going to happen. So I can either stand in the way of it, not do anything, or I can get behind it, because this is something that I care about. And it's a lot easier to get behind something like that if there's already a thing that people can, whether, even if it's a website or something like that, if it's like, if I can interact with it or touch it, feel it, like, it changes it for people.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm sitting around these Major Taylor folks, and they're asking me like, do you still race road? And I was like, no, really, I race cross. And one of these guys looks at me and said, no one has ever taken the time to tell me about cyclocross before. And like, it just kind of like hit me like a dagger. I was, just like, what? Like what? Yeah, what and why? And let's go. So I think I gave him like the short history of everything about cyclocross in the next 30 minutes. But just hearing that was just like, oh, there is this group of brown and black folks that race bikes already, that have absolutely no knowledge about cross, and we got to do something about that. And so that was kind of the last thing where I was like, all right, this, whatever I have to do to make this happen, we're gonna do it.
I love that there's moments that inspire all the things that you've done in this space, because it's like, it keeps making you want to move the needle for other people. Like, you're not looking to be like, hey, how can I advance Randy's position in this world that exists around me? No, you're like, no, how can I get other people into a space where they can discover themselves because of what running and cycling gave you? It's not about like imposing your will on them, giving them the space to just exist in the space, because any of us, like, we've done what we've done, we've had our experiences, we arrive where we arrive, put whatever crowns on or whatever things you've got from your life, but it's about building something for someone else. Where do you think that was inspired from in your life? Why do you think that's a thing? Because this has happened repeatedly. Why do you think this is how Randy operates?
I mean, it's a great question. But I think I didn't have a lot of this growing up, and I think that's probably a lot of it. Like I didn't, I didn't play sports. Like I didn't have the opportunity to do a lot of that stuff. I and getting into it as an adult and realizing that I could do some of the stuff that I didn't think was accessible to me. And race absolutely has something to do with that.
For sure.
I think the joy that I got out of having all of these doors open for me just made me want to do that, for other, folks that were in my position. That's really what it is. And, I think you touched upon it earlier, just talking about, yeah, the joys that we've all had, racing and doing the things we've done, and how you can, you can still feel those, you can recall those joys when you watch other people doing it. We all were out at HBCX this past weekend, and I wasn't racing. I was there being team dad. And every single thing that everyone on the team went through, I was feeling again. It was at least one person's first race, and most of their second race. Doomy from the team comes over afterwards, and I warned them. I was like, "There's going to be a moment in all these races you're going to hate me for getting you into this." He comes walking over, and his legs are all muddy, and he's like, I crashed in every lap in the same spot, and I don't like you right now, and I'm all sweaty and gross. Come here, give me a hug. And it was, it was such a great, like, I felt it all. I remembered like every, crash my first year racing cross, and just tearing my jerseys and getting all muddy, and it all came, all the joy of going through all that came back, and it just, being able to feel that through other people, it makes it easy to do this.
So where does this go? What does this look like 2022, 2025? Like where's your head at in terms of where this is arcing towards?
I mean, after the last 18 months, I can hardly think about where I'm going to be. 3 months.
Okay, Pebbles, to be clear, we had a conversation in the green room about how everyone is tired and trying to figure out how to live life just like as a human being. So
yeah,
yes, we're all in that space.
I think the interesting thing with doing this kind of work is I kind of just can't think about that too much. It's exhausting to do this at all, and if I think any further ahead than what I'm doing right now, I think I would get very easily overwhelmed and like wonder if I'm doing the right thing, and start overthinking stuff. I want to set a model for other people to do similar things. I think if there's anything that I've thought about like this grander scheme is like, I don't think what I'm specifically doing here with B is scalable in an easy way. But I think it's important to show that, it's important to get, people of color out racing. I think that there are other iterations of this kind of thing that would work differently, at different scales in different places. And, like I was saying earlier, like I just want to show people that you can do a little bit and have a small team and have a profound impact. And if I can inspire other people to do other little things, then all of those little things will keep adding up. And all of a sudden, we will see big change, even if it's not like, doesn't have to be me transforming B into like a nationwide, like, 1,000-member, club with like different, organizations in different states. Although it's been cool. We've had plenty of people reach out and say like, hey, what are you starting this in Austin? Like, when are you doing this on the West Coast? And,
yes.
I've been keeping track of all those people that have been reaching out. So, I hope if anything that someday I can say, I can't do that, but here's the guidebook. Like, this is what we did here. Go do it. Like, I will help introduce you to people. Like, I can mentor you. I can give you ideas. But if I can inspire other people to do it and to start making little changes, then they will absolutely amplify, and that will be great.
So let me reframe and ask kind of the same but a different question. You've mentioned it a couple times, and it can't go without, again, like we've been saying, like it can't go without being acknowledged that there's been a lot of things in your life that have been, for you, predefined by how you perceive your skin tone or or how somebody's accepting or not accepting of you based on that, just as like setting the groundwork. So from that perspective, let me ask that, thinking forward, what do you need?
Uh, I need people who don't look like me to keep fighting with me. That's that's it, it's exhausting. Like, if when we look at sticking up for race and for fighting those fights, it is absolutely exhausting, just emotionally, physically, um, for a black person to fight about things like Black Lives Matter. It is so hard to stand up in front of people and speak about those injustices. And I get to do that, within the framework of this other stuff I'm doing. I get to make statements by putting this team out there, and even if I'm not directly fighting someone over inclusion in the sport, and you guys know I do plenty of that too, but I still get to make an impact by doing something positive, which, like, I need like 95% of my fighting to be positive, so I can have some strength to do like the negative things.
Yeah.
But when it comes to those when you especially when you hear about racist, sexist events, in bike racing, plenty of stuff going on right now. We need people who do not, who are not a member of that same protected class of people that is being affected by something, to step up and fight. I think, to get away from bikes a little bit, we had an incident at our local school where people in the community stole our Black Lives Matter flag that we had hanging up at the beginning of the school year. And I feel like most of our school community was feeling the same way I was feeling, being upset and wanting to do something about it. But no one was willing to speak up about it. And I had to, because no one else was. And it was probably the most exhausting thing that I had to do this year. And no one who, not a single non-Black person at that meeting stood up and said something. And that's what's exhausting. So as far as race goes, when you see people fighting, come and join the fight, like be allies and fight with us. Speak up. You could totally agree with what I'm saying. Say it out loud, say it where everybody else can hear it. Because that's what we need. We need people who don't look like me saying the things that I'm saying.
That breaks my heart that no one said what needed to be said in that moment. And I understand why people are scared to, because they are afraid of losing the thing they have. And it is the most like primal instinct to protect the things you have, but they are not yours until you can completely give them away.
Yep.
They're not.
Yep.
They belong to all of us. So you just got to let them go and stand up for people who need you to stand up. I appreciate you saying that. And I think the community in cycling needs to continue to stand up for the people that are getting crapped on every single time there's a turn in any sort of situation.
Yes.
Or any sort of moment where you have an opportunity to just lean directly into race and all of these things where there's just stand up for that crap. It doesn't hurt you long term. Like, just stop, lean into
stand up and just, don't be quiet. Like, again, like this school example was such a concrete, good example for me to give.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Like, it's, people would like, in the middle of this meeting would be like DMing me saying like, yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. It's like, no. Tell everybody else that.
Say
like,
it.
Say it with your chest.
But yes, exactly.
That's 100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
But again, I feel like those scenarios are like Doug's saying is people get scared to I don't even think it's speaking out, but it's rocking the boat or worried that whatever.
Being afraid you're going to get your privilege taken
right,
away.
Right. But it's that fear of like, I might lose something from this. But it's like, no, if you at your core are having that battle of this is the right thing, but I'm scared, like that's
You're already leaned. You're already leaned over that side. Keep going.
I mean, then you're literally part of the problem. Then if you're not going to
right, and that's where it
like,
becomes you have to look internally if you're not strong enough to fight that internal battle yourself and do what you think is right. If you're going to go out and try and be a part of your community and say that I'm welcoming and all whatever sign you want to put in your front yard, like go live it, like go live that. You like. I go to church every Sunday or whatever the case may be. Like, cool. Like, again, as we said earlier in the show, like we're from Missouri, the show me state. Like you're going to have to show me, like live up to the best version of what you can be. And I mean, we said it a couple times, like just say it, like say it out loud, acknowledge what's going on.
Yep.
It's not.
No,
but
that's,
for some it's hard. I don't know.
No, they got to step up.
Yeah.
They do, and they have to. They absolutely freaking have to. And this is the problem that happens so much in cycling, and it's so good to see when there are people like you who, people like you who have done work, right? I'm just saying you're doing work. Let's be very clear. You're putting in effort and saying, hey, here's the thing I'm building. Here's the thing I'm doing. This should be the community rallying around things like this and saying, this is the work we want to see done. And we support this effort and fund it, share it, promote it, care about it, engage with it, create an opportunity where there's actually going to be positive movement and this gets shared with other people. Because yeah, you're right. New York and what you've been able to do with B is like specifically due to the variables that you have, right? You have a certain set of assets and a certain set of connections that not everybody has. But if we all share that as a model and we say, this is important, this is good work, this is the thing that needs to be done, this can maybe not be replicated, but can be inspiring in local spaces. Yes. And we start to look at things growing in a more organic fashion where people in their local community who know how their local community operates, whether it's Arkansas or New York or Iowa or Cincinnati, Ohio, are able to be like, hey, we know what works here, but we're going to lift people up and bring other voices into this sport. And I think
just
missed so much.
Just think about what would happen to all of our cycling communities across the country if the lawyers and doctors and people that are spending 6, 7, 10 grand on a bike every year to have the latest and greatest. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if they are going 10 tenths on their cycling world or their triathlon world or their running world every year, and if they tune it down to 9 tenths and put 1 tenth back, just think, like,
change everything.
Just think if, like, none of you are going to win gold medals in the Olympics, none of you are going to wear rainbow stripes, but just think about the actual impact that you could leave on the world that is not a selfish one by just giving a little sliver of yourself. We got a guest star.
Yep.
Yeah.
You want to say hi?
Hi. Welcome to the gravel lot.
Are you going to bed? Okay. Good night. No, I got to finish up. Okay.
Oh, give her a big hug right now. It's very important.
This is Cece, everybody.
Hi,
The
Cece.
star of the show. They're saying hi. She can't hear you, but all right. Good night, baby girl.
What did they say?
All right, you gotta let me go, okay?
What did they say?
You gotta let me
What did they say?
go back downstairs. Go back downstairs. Come on. I knew that was happening at some point.
No, I knew it was too, and I was,
That was
so
good
excited
timing.
for it. I'm perfect. No.
What were we even saying?
Well, I mean, we were I think looking for an off ramp, but Nobbycat in the YouTube comments just nailed this and really sums this up perfectly. Is be more than an ally, be an accomplice. I like.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking about, I want people doing the work with me, and I wanted to ask, like, because there's going to be people that are going to nitpick that statement apart because it's a vague statement, but to me it's not. It could be different. Like Doug said, it could be something different for Little Rock versus Des Moines versus Twin Cities. Like, it could be completely different for what somebody needs in their specific situation. But I go back to kind of what I was saying is, if you just took cycling and didn't make it so selfish, and I know it's a selfish sport. Like, I think we all acknowledge that. For any of us that have spent any time training or preparing for something, it is not something that's spouse friendly. But
Yes.
But I think if you just dial it back, you can still accomplish just as much, but you can actually leave such a big impact because you're giving a piece of yourself back. And I don't think that that's a lot to ask. It's not saying drop your racing and, buy a steel Schwinn versus your carbon, super bike that you've been saving for, which they now, speaking of Cannondale, they now own Cannondale, I saw. But like, just give a little portion of that back, whether it's your time, whether it's your money. If it's disposable time and disposable income, clearly it can go towards something that'll actually move the needle.
Absolutely. I have to do this so often in CRCA, but like, we have to remember we're amateur bike racers. Like, it's I like to tell people that it's the same thing as like a bar softball league, and then they get really mad, and then they realize that I'm right. And
this is way more than that.
But Timmy put his bar on the back of my shirt.
Yeah.
There's just an inherent entitlement that comes with, like, the way we race bikes, and sometimes people need to get, like, taken back down to earth a little bit about it. But you're right. If some of that can then go into helping out with making the sport more inclusive, like, it does not take much.
Anything. That's what I'm saying. Like, anything.
Just
it
would be more than we've ever fucking done. Like, we have not done that, right? And we've got Randy out here slugging himself trying to make something happen, but all the other people who've been so included in the sport the whole fucking time have done jack fucking all. I'm doing a lot of F's.
Yeah.
Glad your daughter's not in the room. But like,
earmuffs.
She hears me doing it all the time, so it's fine.
But that challenge is the problem, right? Like, if you can't even begin to just scratch the damn surface of yourself to give something, to think about this in a more inclusive way, what the fuck is wrong?
You said it.
Now
Yep.
Doug's all
Grumpy.
worked up.
Grumpy.
Yeah, now he's all worked up. Now he's not going to go to
Grumpy worked up
bed till late.
I've been reading all this crap on the internet about USA crits. It's been my day. So I'm just been grumpy and angry old man all day.
Worked up.
Yeah. Well, that is the natural state of a person of color in this country. So welcome. Use it.
Hey, look, I want to stand in solidarity and stand in the space that you have to stand in, and think of it from that perspective, because if I don't, I'm not accessing my privilege and understanding why I have the ability to stand aside from it. So my job is to stand in that breach with you and understand that that is where I need to be. That is where we all need to be. We have to stay in that space and think of it from that perspective. Because if we're not, we're easy able to be like, I'm going to bed. Instagram. Peace.
Everyone listen to this man. He is speaking the truth right now.
Hey, worship Satan, respect women. No, but it is because of people like you and people who are in our world that we are able to be given perspective like that, to understand that. And 20 years ago, I wouldn't have had this ability to have that conversation or to even be able to understand that. And it's because of the work that folks like you are doing in our community that bring this back to us, so we can start to understand the privilege we're given, and understand how to use that better to support people who aren't like us, so that we can start to learn and grow. and we can build a world that we want to see, where all our kids are able to be around a table together and not see like, oh, it's, well, I want to see a purple kid. Now shut up. But like, we really don't want, we want to get to a space where that actually exists, and we're not there yet. So we have to keep digging in this space.
Well, the one thing that, you know, has brought me a lot of hope is seeing the reaction to the team, you know, especially now that we have been getting to races and, you know, getting to our cross practices here in New York City. The outpouring of support, you know, from race organizers, from fellow teams, from other people in the community has been great. You know, people just sticking around at the end of the day and cheering on the Cat 5 race this weekend, you know, for the guys. Like, it's been special to see people get excited about it. You know, people willing to, you know, to take away from their own racing to go and pre-ride with people on the team, offering people rides, like, you know, just really kind of stepping up locally to help out. You know, the New York City cyclocross community in particular has been absolutely amazing. And yeah, it's all been incredibly motivating for me. Having such a good time doing it, getting people to see the gospel of cyclocross. I'm looking forward to seeing what the rest of the season's like and beyond.
And I mean, from your perspective and being inspired by that is you just outlined exactly what we were just talking about of people seeing what you're doing and giving of themselves, giving small things that probably didn't mean anything to change what their race day prep or what their, you know, outcome was, but it changed your perspective on what you were giving, and it was giving you something positive in return and giving something incredibly positive to the kids riding on those bikes. Like, that's where it is, like, you see immediate butterfly effect, and it would be nice to think that other folks that are seeing this happen start to model that behavior, and then we create a pyramid scheme and everybody gets rich.
You
and
tell two
best-
friends.
the
yeah,
best
and then
kind
they
of-
tell
the
two
best kind of
friends,
pyramid
and this
scheme.
is the best kind of pyramid scheme. Yes, exactly. So,
Right, exactly.
all right. So again, you've mentioned before, you've listened to the show, so you know we got one more question, but we're gonna pay some bills real quick. So we're gonna give you a chance to actually collect yourself, get a drink of water, maybe think about what you want the folks to take away from today. But as you guys know, as we wrap up the show today, this is one more chance for Doug and I and Randy as well to thank you guys so much for listening, engaging, and making TGL so successful. This thing that Doug and I started, we could not have imagined that it would have turned into what it has. It is like, from the bottom of both of our hearts, like, such a privilege to be able to bring this thing to you and to be able to give platforms and give amazing people like Randy an ability to tell their story and challenge us and challenge you guys. And without y'all, we simply could not keep bringing this to you guys each and every week. And just like Randy was saying, is you guys are the golf shot that keeps us coming back to this thing. And without you guys continually giving of yourselves to listen to this thing and engage with us, it would slowly fall away and die. So, we encourage you guys to slide over to our partners. You should know them. You should love them by now. They assist in helping us bring TGL to you guys each and every week. We know that they make amazing products, and I don't think that it's really going to be a hard sell for us to say, like, go buy these things because they are amazing. They support our show. We think that you guys should support them because they are actually helping us bring this thing to you guys. So show them some love. Thank them. I think I actually, when I was doing a checkout the other day on Grimpore, there is a notes section that you can actually write into if you want to write a thank you.
Give some thank yous.
Normally
Thank you.
it's for like shipping instructions or like,
Hey,
you know,
don't
leave
leave
it.
this on my front porch because there's a
Right.
whole bunch
My
of
neighbor's a
thieves.
thief. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, you could flip that up and be like, hey, thanks for supporting TGL, Dan.
That's excellent. So when you
I
slide
love
on
that.
over to BFRB Cycling Apparel, head on over there when you're going to buy some custom kit for your team, whether it's B Cyclocross or anybody else who needs custom kit. Our good friends over at Be Free Ride Bikes will be happy to sort you out. Personally tailored kits to your needs, whatever fabrics, whatever cuts, whatever you need to make happen. Be Free Ride Bikes can make it happen. Head on over to bfrbcycling.com and take a look how they can get you all sorted out. We're probably too deep in the cyclocross season for you to get kit, but maybe if you're going to road race next year, you want to do that, get yourself sorted out for the
Probably
spring.
have it by Worlds.
Yeah,
I don't know if anybody that's listening to our show is fast enough to need kit for Worlds, but you probably already
I don't
have
think
paid
so.
for it.
I don't think so. No,
It's a nice
none
thought.
of us on this call are. So that's
It's certainly
all I
a nice
know.
thought, though.
Yeah, very good. So if you need World's kit, call
Yeah,
BFRB.
hook us up. Yeah, let us know. You guys can also follow the link in our show notes and head to grimporbrothers.com now. Get your hands on some premium hand-roasted coffee that supports great causes in cycling and beyond. Today's conversation, so much about it is right in Dan and everyone at Grimport Brothers' wheelhouse, because they are taking portions of every single blend that they make and giving back to specific causes. So you can go to the website, grimportbrothers.com, check out the individual brews, check out the individual causes that are attached to each one of them, and you can pick the brew or the cause that matches you. And don't forget that if you get this subscription service, you'll get a free bag of coffee. And also this week, 2 weeks, whatever. I think we've lost track of what day is
Flat
today.
circle.
Right. Thank you to Dan for sending a couple pounds of coffee over to the UK to one of our amazing listeners that's been such a huge supporter of us. So now it's international Grimper Brothers shipping. I don't know if we necessarily want to promote that because
No, don't promote that.
it was
'cause
pretty
it's very
expensive to send it over there. But it was
that bill. That's fine. That's
yeah,
fine.
it was
That's fine.
it was
That's not
it
on
was
Dan.
something that we were more than happy to do because Kate, you mean the world to us, and thank you so much for your support. So we hope that you really enjoy your Grimport coffee.
Yeah, and tell us how it tasted. We want to know.
Describe it in detail.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
flowery language if you can make it
Yeah.
happen for sure. But last and not least, our awesome and great friends at Hand Up Gloves. Hand Up Gloves supplying multiple different sports with all sorts of apparel. New flannels out right.
New
this
koozie.
week.
I saw that
and
today too.
koozie. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Brown bag
So
koozie.
so many good things from Hand Up coming right now. So if you need to get yourself outfitted for the fall, do that. Get yourself some new flannels. I am so flanneled up. I'm like a flanimal over here. I do not
It's
need
flannel
more
season. It's not hoodie season anymore. It's fall. It's flannel season.
It's flannel season,
Yeah.
and it's only because I turned the heat on, so I'm only in t-shirt here. But you're basically in a low key flannel, John. We're working on flannels.
It was beautiful here today in Cincinnati.
It was.
So
It was
it's
like
not
70.
like
Yeah.
it's flannels in the morning and then it gets nice out.
It was like flannels and like a slanket. I had to like I needed a bunch of things on this morning. It was too damn cold. At any rate,
Well,
head on over to
you guys
It's
know
cold
this
in the
is my time of the year, and Doug doesn't like it when it goes below 80.
Nope.
So
I'm Mediterranean human.
Yeah,
Give
he
me
doesn't like
towards
it.
the sun. Nope, not for it. So at any rate, head on over to Hand Up gloves, apparel, all this stuff for all the sports you want to do, especially cycling. They will get you sorted out. Go to the link in the show notes. Click that link because this is the only way you can apply code Pebble $. Save yourself 10% off at checkout with everything in store. That is our good friends at Hand Up Gloves. We adore hearing from you. Yeah, no, I'm taking this one, John. I'm just going to steal it right out your mouth.
okay, all right.
We are going to take, nope, there we go. I'll cut this out later. We love hearing from all of you, so make sure to visit and subscribe our social feeds and head on over to thegravelot.com. Stay in touch and up to date. We keep all our stuff up there. Join our live shows every other week here on Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, all those spaces, and engage with us and our guests. We got some questions in and some comments for Randy tonight, so glad to have those.
Our intro and outro music is from Waterboy, so super, super big thanks to him for letting us use his music. Check him out on all the major music platforms. Just click the link in the show notes. So, Randy, two things. Actually, I know I said we just got one more, but first one is I want to give you an opportunity to tell people how to find CRCA on the internet and anything else that you would like to self-promote right now.
Yes, and the BE.
Sure. Yes. So CRCA, you can find us at crca.net or CRCA Racing on social media. And Be Cyclocross. Unfortunately, we had a little kerfuffle with Instagram. Our Instagram account is BECX official, and we are bcyclocross.com on the web.
Did you guys get snagged by the same thing everybody else did a couple weeks ago?
No, it was like what it was last year at some point. We had be cyclocross on Insta, and all of a sudden, somehow, even though I had two-factor on, somehow someone compromised the account and they would not give it back.
Well, it's because you had dog account. Like every time you have a cool name account, someone comes and tries to steal that from you.
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
glad no one cares about me.
Yeah, I think your dub minion's in good shape. I think
No one's
you're
screwing with
fine.
me. I'm
Yeah.
good. I'm fine.
All right,
There you go.
let's go. So, Randy, if you could have our Pebbles, the listeners here in the gravel lot with all of us, if you could have them take one thing home from today's conversation, what would you like that thing to be?
Just that we are all out here part of the same community. It doesn't matter if you are a, Cat 1 trying to go pro. It doesn't matter if you are trying to race for the first time. We're all doing the same thing and enjoying the same sport. Look out for each other, be part of each other's communities. If you are an established part of bike racing and you see some new people at the race, go talk to them. Help grow the community. We need everyone to be friends. We're all doing the same thing, and that's that's a big step one towards making some change.
I think it's so easy to forget how small our world really is.
That's tiny.
Just even if you factor in mountain bikes, road, crit, cyclocross, all the different disciplines, even put triathlon in there as well. Like it's not very big.
If
And it's also, I think people
I don't know
forget
how I
how
feel
much
about their short socks.
people forget how much of an impact it makes to just go and say hi to somebody too. And I've had this lucky privilege to know so much of the cross community around here that I could introduce all the B folks
Yeah.
to people, and they could have friends and be a quick part of this community. But like, you see a new team, you see some new racers, like go say hi. Like we're all just out there to have fun together.
Yeah, it's funny because earlier today I was looking at looking back when I first got into cross in 2011 and 2012, and looking at an email that I wrote to Jeremy Powers, actually thanking him for making Behind the Barriers and making it look like cyclocross was a community that I wanted to be a part of, and seeming open, and as somebody that's like very much an introvert going to a new cross race by myself, like I'm not going to be the person that walks up and is like, "Hi, I'm new here and this is what I like and I have this bike. Is it the right bike? Is it like I'm like in the corner, like don't seem like all of that stuff." Like, so for those people who do feel like, I've been doing this a while and, I see somebody new, I'm not really, I don't know who you are. Like, go say hi, introduce yourself, check out where they're at, what, like, they may be there for the first time and they may be going out on 70 PSI on like a muddy day. Like they don't know what they don't know.
Save them
So
from themselves.
you may save them from themselves. So,
But you also might be the thing that makes them come back next time.
yes,
Like they might have like otherwise like an average to like subpar experience that day, but like someone coming in, being friendly and talking to them, like even if you don't get to save their day and give them advice, like you might be the reason they come back next time.
right. Which, let's be real, most cyclocross races are overwhelming and subpar experiences in general that don't end well. But the reason we all keep coming back is somehow we really love the racing, but then all of our friends are there and we get to hang out and make fun and tell stories like we just did. So
Exactly.
do all of those things.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. It's a good lesson for us to all take home. Don't forget why you got in this, and spread that love to every single person you see, and keep lifting up good stuff that's happening in the community. If we're about nothing else around here, that's what we're about, is find good stuff that's happening, share it, boost it, make it happen, and make it happen.
Say it with your chest.
Yeah.
Say it.
Yep, say it out loud for sure. So, always, Randy, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking time out of your night.
Thank you for having me. It's been a wonderful night.
Oh, it's been awesome having you. It's super awesome. Thank you to all of you Pebbles for being here. Old and new, we cannot do this without you. You are the lifeblood of this entire thing. Make sure to subscribe, follow, engage, do all that. Click the like button. Go to gravelot.com. Follow us there. Become a Patreon supporter. We're happy to have you, and we would love to have you. Gang, that is all for this week. So be sure to subscribe, follow, and engage, because as you know, decisions and trails are only made by those who show up. So if we don't see you on the trails this week, we'll see you next time. Bye, John.
Bye, Doug.